Captain Elena Rivera had been preparing for this moment her entire life. From the very first day she joined the army, she had trained relentlessly, waking up before dawn, running miles in the freezing cold, and pushing herself to the limit. Every obstacle, every challenge had shaped her into the soldier she was now, a strong, focused, and fearless leader. Yet, nothing could fully prepare her for the reality of being deployed to an active war zone, where danger lurked around every corner and every decision could mean life or death. The mission she was about to face was critical. Her unit was tasked with securing a strategic location that would give their side a major advantage. Failure was not an option, and the stakes were higher than ever. The air was tense, filled with the distant sounds of artillery and the low hum of military vehicles moving across the rugged terrain. Elena could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on her shoulders, but she welcomed it. This was her element, the battlefield. Her teammates, seasoned soldiers in their own right, were a mixture of respect and skepticism toward her. Elena had proven herself in countless training exercises, but some of them still doubted her. She was one of the few women in the unit, and despite her flawless record, a few sneers and raised eyebrows reminded her that not everyone expected her to perform under extreme pressure. But Elena had learned early on that doubt from others was fuel for her determination. She let the skepticism roll off her like water on armor, keeping her focus sharp and her mind clear. As they moved closer to the front line, Elena's thoughts were a mix of strategy and observation. She scanned the environment carefully, noting potential dangers, cover points, and the positions of her teammates. Every shadow, every rise in the terrain, every sound mattered. She knew that being aware of her surroundings could save lives, including her own. Elena had an almost instinctive ability to read a battlefield, to sense where the threats were most likely to come from, and how to position herself and her team to minimize risk. The unit paused briefly to regroup. Dust swirled around them, kicked up by the wind and the movement of soldiers and vehicles. Tension was visible on every face. Some soldiers whispered words of encouragement to each other, while others silently checked their weapons, ensuring everything was in working order. Elena took a moment to check her own gear, running her fingers over the surfaces of her rifle, her helmet, and her vest. She trusted her equipment, but more than that, she trusted herself. Despite the calm exterior she projected, Elena's heart was beating faster than usual. This was no training exercise, this was real. Lives were on the line, and the unpredictability of combat made every second intense. Yet, she didn't let fear control her. Fear was a tool, she reminded herself, a signal that demanded respect but not surrender. She focused on controlling her breathing, keeping her mind sharp, and preparing to act with precision and courage. As the team advanced, the first signs of enemy activity appeared. Small movements in the distance, the glint of metal in the sunlight, and the occasional muffled sound of gunfire indicated that danger was near. Elena's instincts kicked in immediately. She signaled to her squad to take cover and move carefully, her voice calm but firm. Her teammates followed her lead, trusting her judgment even if some still questioned her abilities. In this moment, Elena's leadership shone. She wasn't just a soldier. She was a guide, a protector, and a strategist. Every step she took was deliberate, calculated to maximize safety while keeping the mission moving forward. She communicated silently with her team through gestures and brief commands, ensuring everyone was aligned and aware. There was no room for hesitation or error. But what made Elena truly remarkable wasn't just her skill or training. It was her mindset. She carried a quiet confidence that inspired those around her. Even when faced with uncertainty, she radiated calm and focus. Her presence reassured her teammates and gave them the strength to push forward. They may have doubted her before, but in these moments, her actions spoke louder than words ever could. As they approached the critical point of their mission, Elena felt a mix of anticipation and determination. She knew the real challenge was about to begin. The battlefield was unpredictable, and anything could happen, but she was ready. Every moment of preparation, every drop of sweat and effort she had invested in her career, had led to this point, and she was determined to prove, not to anyone else, but to herself, that she was capable of facing whatever lay ahead, no matter how dangerous or impossible it seemed. The sun cast long shadows across the rugged terrain, and the wind carried the faint scent of smoke and earth. Elena took a deep breath, centered herself, and led her team forward, step by step, toward the unknown. It was in this moment, walking into uncertainty with courage and determination, that the true measure of a soldier was revealed. And Captain Elena Rivera was about to show the world, and perhaps even herself, what real bravery looked like. The moment Captain Elena Rivera reached her position, she felt the tension tighten like a vice around her chest. The battle was intensifying with every passing second, and every soldier knew that a single mistake could cost lives. Her eyes scanned the rugged terrain, calculating enemy positions, cover points, and possible escape routes. Her squad moved cautiously, but Elena's mind was already racing ahead, planning the next steps. Just as she prepared to settle into her position, her commanding officer approached her with a rifle. At first, Elena thought it was routine, a simple handoff of her weapon. But the moment she looked at it, her heart sank slightly. The rifle was damaged. Not just a minor scratch or dent. This weapon had seen heavy use and showed obvious signs of malfunction. The barrel had a slight bend, the trigger mechanism seemed sticky, and the magazine had loose parts rattling inside. Any seasoned soldier could see that it might fail at a crucial moment. Her teammates noticed her glance and some of them smirked. A few whispered under their breath, questioning her ability to handle a broken rifle in the middle of a real firefight. The doubt was thinly veiled, but Elena caught it. She had faced skepticism countless times before, sometimes from colleagues, sometimes from higher-ups who underestimated her because of her age, gender, or simply because she was different. She didn't need them to believe in her. What mattered was her own focus, her own skill, and her ability to adapt under pressure. Elena held the broken rifle carefully, examining every part of it. She knew that in combat, hesitation could be fatal. There was no time to dwell on frustration or unfairness. Instead, she reminded herself that a weapon is only as effective as the person using it. Even with a damaged rifle, a skilled soldier could make it work. And Elena was determined to prove that she was exactly that. Around her, the sounds of battle were growing louder. Explosions shook the ground nearby, sending small clouds of dust and debris into the air. The staccato rhythm of distant gunfire added to the tension. Her teammates were setting up positions, some taking cover behind rocks and makeshift barricades, while others peeked over edges, scanning for enemy movement. Elena positioned herself carefully, her broken rifle held firmly in her hands. Despite its flaws, it was still a tool, and she was going to use it intelligently. She quickly ran through a mental checklist: the rifle's firing mechanism, the safety, the magazine, and the alignment of the sights. She tested the trigger cautiously, adjusting her grip to compensate for the stickiness. Every movement was deliberate, precise, and controlled. She wasn't rushing. She was preparing. She knew that once the enemy spotted them, there would be no second chances. Every shot counted. Her squad noticed her meticulous approach. A few who had doubted her glanced over curiously, sensing that she wasn't intimidated or helpless. Elena's calmness and focus were almost magnetic, and even those skeptical soldiers felt a surge of confidence seeing her handle the situation so effectively. Leadership isn't just about giving orders, it's about showing composure under pressure, and Elena was a master at it. Then, the moment of truth arrived. The enemy forces revealed themselves, moving quickly across open terrain, unaware that Elena and her team were watching and waiting. Elena adjusted her position using the broken rifle as best she could. Each time she aimed, she had to account for the imperfections of the weapon. Slight misalignments, inconsistent trigger pulls, but she focused on her training, on her instincts, and on the knowledge that accuracy came from skill, not equipment alone. Her first few shots went off perfectly, each one hitting its target despite the rifle's flaws. Her teammates watched in surprise as Elena's precision and composure turned what could have been a disaster into a display of skill and ingenuity. The broken rifle, initially seen as a liability, became a tool in her capable hands. It was a reminder that determination, intelligence, and courage often matter far more than any weapon. Even as the battle raged, Elena didn't allow herself to get distracted by the chaos around her. She stayed aware of every movement, every sound, and every change in the environment. She communicated silently with her squad, signaling when to advance, when to hold position, and when to take cover. Her leadership was quiet but undeniable, and her broken rifle, now an extension of her sharp mind and steady hands, was performing beyond anyone's expectations. The realization began to settle in among her teammates. Elena wasn't just surviving with this weapon. She was thriving. She was controlling the pace of the fight, neutralizing threats, and inspiring her squad to act with confidence. The initial smirks and whispered doubts vanished, replaced by quiet respect. They had underestimated her, and they were now witnessing exactly why that had been a mistake. Elena herself remained focused, knowing the battle was far from over. She treated the broken rifle as a challenge, a puzzle that required skill and patience to overcome. And in doing so, she proved a vital lesson. It isn't the equipment that defines a soldier, but the mind, the courage, and the resourcefulness behind it. By the end of that initial engagement, Elena's broken rifle had become a symbol, not of weakness, but of resilience. Every shot she fired, every decision she made, left a clear message for those watching. Under pressure, under doubt, and even with imperfect tools, true skill and bravery can overcome any obstacle. The battle was far from over, and Captain Elena Rivera knew that the initial exchange had only been the beginning. The adrenaline from handling the broken rifle still coursed through her veins, but she didn't let it cloud her judgment. She took a moment to observe the battlefield carefully, scanning every inch of terrain and analyzing the positions of both her squad and the enemy. Every movement, every shadow, every sound could provide crucial information. In a real battle, one wrong assumption could cost lives, and Elena was determined that wouldn't happen on her watch. She crouched behind a low wall of rocks, the dust of recent gunfire still settling around her. Through the thin haze, she could see enemy soldiers moving in a coordinated pattern, attempting to flank her squad. The terrain was rugged, dotted with craters, debris, and makeshift cover. Elena's eyes flicked from one position to another, mentally marking the safest paths for her teammates, potential ambush points, and areas where enemy fire was heaviest. Her training had taught her to see the battlefield as a living map, constantly changing, with each soldier and obstacle as a piece in a dangerous puzzle. Her squad noticed her careful observation and quiet thoughtfulness. Some soldiers were already moving instinctively, but Elena wanted everyone to pause for a brief moment and reassess. She signaled them to take cover and stay alert while she analyzed the situation. Her calm, decisive manner instilled confidence. Even those who had doubted her in the past now trusted her judgment completely. Elena knew that leadership was not just about giving orders. It was about guiding others through uncertainty with confidence and clarity. Elena's mind worked quickly but methodically. She calculated the distance to the nearest enemy, the likely trajectory of incoming fire, and the strengths and weaknesses of each cover point. She considered the wind, the uneven ground, and even the sun's angle, knowing these could affect visibility and aiming. Every detail mattered. A seasoned soldier like her understood that preparation in these moments could make the difference between success and disaster. She also took stock of her squad. Each member had strengths and weaknesses, and Elena needed to position them in ways that maximized their effectiveness while keeping them safe. She silently communicated instructions through hand signals, directing one soldier to cover a wide approach, signaling another to prepare for an enemy advance from the left, and reminding herself to check on the squad's medic. Her awareness extended beyond herself. She was responsible for their lives, and she carried that responsibility with unwavering focus. As she studied the battlefield, Elena noticed small but critical details others might have missed. A slight movement behind a mound of dirt indicated a sniper position. A glint of metal near a destroyed vehicle suggested a soldier reloading or preparing an ambush. She mentally mapped out all possible enemy actions, predicting their next moves before they happened. This ability to anticipate danger was part instinct, part experience, and part sharp observation, a combination that made her an extraordinary soldier. Elena also knew that staying stationary for too long could be dangerous. She considered the best approach to maneuvering her squad without exposing them unnecessarily. She signaled to a few teammates to quietly advance, covering one another as they moved toward a safer and more advantageous position. Her squad followed without hesitation. They trusted her strategy, knowing she had thought through every possible scenario. Even under immense pressure, Elena's mind remained calm. She didn't allow fear or adrenaline to dictate her actions. Instead, she used the tension to sharpen her senses, heightening her awareness of everything happening around her. Every sound, from distant gunfire to the faint rustle of movement in the grass, was noted and analyzed. She made mental notes of what could be traps and what could be opportunities. Her broken rifle, still in her hands, was ready, but she didn't rely on it blindly. She relied on her skill, her observation, and her ability to make split-second decisions. The enemy began to advance more aggressively, unaware that Elena had already anticipated their moves. She adjusted her squad's positions silently, ensuring each soldier was in the optimal spot to counterattacks and protect one another. It was a delicate balance, too aggressive and they risked exposure, too passive and the enemy would gain ground. Elena's strategic thinking kept the squad one step ahead. Her calm and methodical assessment also had an unexpected effect on her team. Those who had doubted her began to see her not just as a competent soldier, but as a natural leader. Her focus, quick thinking, and ability to adapt under pressure inspired confidence. Soldiers who had been nervous or hesitant now moved with purpose, following her lead without hesitation. Elena understood that in battle, morale was just as important as tactics. Confidence could tip the scales in moments when every second counted. As the next wave of enemy soldiers approached, Elena was ready. Her eyes scanned the field one final time, her mind already calculating the order in which she would engage targets, how her team would respond, and the safest paths for retreat if needed. She knew that anticipation, not panic, would determine the outcome of this engagement. Her broken rifle was a challenge, but she had learned to treat challenges as opportunities, to test her skill, ingenuity, and determination. In those tense moments, the true measure of her ability shone through. Elena Rivera was not just assessing the battlefield. She was orchestrating it. Every decision, every movement, every observation was precise, deliberate, and impactful. And as her team prepared for the imminent confrontation, one thing was clear. They were in capable hands. Elena had turned a chaotic and dangerous situation into a controlled battlefield, using her mind, her experience, and her unwavering focus to guide her squad. Captain Elena Rivera knew that the battle was far from over. Even though she had managed to hold her position with the broken rifle, she understood that relying on a damaged weapon was a dangerous gamble. Every time she fired, she risked the rifle jamming or misfiring, and in a fight like this, one mistake could cost not just her life, but the lives of her entire squad. She had to think fast and she had to improvise. She quickly scanned her surroundings. The battlefield was littered with debris from earlier skirmishes, broken crates, shattered barrels, and twisted pieces of metal. Dust rose in clouds around her from nearby explosions, making visibility difficult. But in Elena's mind, every scrap of material was a potential tool. Her instincts kicked in, honed from years of intense training and experience. Improvisation wasn't just a skill, it was survival. Without hesitation, she signaled to her squad to hold their positions. She moved slightly to the side, staying low to the ground, and began inspecting the broken rifle. The barrel was bent, and the firing mechanism was unreliable, but Elena's mind raced with possibilities. She could repair it, at least temporarily, using whatever was available around her. Every second counted, and she didn't have the luxury of calm reflection. She had to act now. Her eyes caught a piece of wire lying near a destroyed supply crate. She grabbed it and quickly began fashioning a makeshift trigger stabilizer. Nearby, she found small metal rods and pieces of wood, which she used to reinforce the rifle's structure. Her hands moved with precision, almost mechanically, while her heart pounded with the urgency of the moment. Every soldier knows the difference between improvisation and desperation, and Elena was working with skill, not panic. As she worked, Enemy fire continued to crack in the distance, forcing her to adjust her position constantly. Each time a shot whizzed past, Elena ducked, rolled, and returned to her task, refusing to let danger shake her focus. Her teammates watched, stunned, as she calmly transformed a weapon that had been considered useless into something that could once again function effectively. They had doubted her earlier, but now their doubts began to fade. The sight of Elena working with such determination and ingenuity was inspiring. Elena's mind was a whirlwind of calculations. She had to consider not just fixing the rifle, but making it reliable enough for the next wave of enemy soldiers. She tested each modification carefully, tapping and adjusting the pieces until she felt a small but crucial click. The rifle now looked battered, patched, and unconventional, but it was functional. Every makeshift adjustment was carefully thought out, turning what could have been a fatal liability into a weapon ready for battle. The improvisation wasn't just mechanical, it was psychological. Elena knew that confidence in one's equipment could determine performance in battle. By fixing the rifle, she was also boosting her own morale and, in subtle ways, the morale of her team. They were beginning to see that no matter how dire the situation, their captain had the ability to turn the odds in their favor. Elena's calm confidence radiated outward, giving her squad the courage to hold their ground. Once the rifle was functional, Elena didn't waste a moment. She tested it with a few cautious shots, aiming at unoccupied areas to ensure the modifications held. Each shot confirmed that her work had paid off. The rifle was no longer broken. It was a testament to her skill and resourcefulness. In battle, creativity and adaptability are as important as strength and aim, and Elena had proven both in the heat of the moment. Her teammates couldn't hide their astonishment. They had expected failure, but instead, they witnessed mastery. Elena's actions transformed the battlefield dynamic. The enemy, unaware of her improvised rifle, continued their advance, confident in their numerical advantage. But Elena's focus and preparation allowed her to remain several steps ahead. Her mind was already plotting the next moves, calculating angles, cover, and timing. The rifle was just one tool. Her greatest asset was her intellect and ability to adapt. As the enemy closed in, Elena positioned herself strategically. She took a deep breath, aimed carefully, and began firing. Each shot was precise, thanks to the careful improvisation she had done moments before. Enemy soldiers were caught off guard, not only by her accuracy but also by the sudden effectiveness of a rifle they assumed would be useless. The tide of the battle began to shift, and her squad, inspired by her ingenuity, followed her lead with renewed confidence. Even in the chaos of battle, Elena remained composed. She didn't let the danger or the unconventional nature of her weapon rattle her. Improvisation, she knew, was not about perfection, it was about effectiveness under pressure. And in this moment, her effectiveness was undeniable. She had taken a weapon that seemed broken and turned it into a tool that could save lives and change the course of the fight. By the end of this phase, it was clear to everyone watching that Elena Rivera was exceptional. Her resourcefulness and calm under pressure had not only repaired a rifle, but had also restored faith and determination within her squad. What had started as a dire disadvantage had become an opportunity to demonstrate courage, creativity, and leadership. The battlefield had become her proving ground, and Elena had shown that skill, intelligence, and determination could overcome even the most seemingly impossible obstacles. Captain Elena Rivera knew that improvising the rifle had bought her team time, but the real challenge was just beginning. The enemy was regrouping, moving more aggressively, and testing every weakness in her squad's formation. Elena understood that if she wanted to turn the tide, she couldn't just react. She had to take control. Leadership wasn't about waiting for orders. It was about stepping forward when it mattered most. She adjusted her stance, gripping her patched-up rifle firmly. The battlefield stretched before her, a chaotic mixture of dust, debris, and gunfire. Her squad looked to her instinctively, their eyes scanning her face for direction. There had been whispers of doubt earlier, and a few soldiers still hesitated in their movements, but Elena's calm presence now radiated confidence. They could sense that she wasn't just managing the fight, she was mastering it. Elena assessed the positions of the enemy forces. They were scattered but coordinated, and their movements suggested they believed the upper hand was theirs. She noticed clusters of enemy soldiers attempting to flank the squad from the left side, while another group was advancing directly in front. Without hesitation, she shouted precise instructions to her team, using hand signals and short, commanding words to orchestrate their actions. Timing was critical, and Elena ensured every soldier knew exactly where to move and when. She led from the front, moving swiftly but carefully through the battlefield. Elena's patched rifle, which had been a liability moments earlier, now became an extension of her precision and focus. Every shot she fired was deliberate, hitting targets with accuracy that seemed impossible given the chaos around her. Enemy soldiers faltered, confused by the sudden effectiveness of a weapon they had assumed useless. Elena's team watched in awe as their captain demonstrated that skill and leadership could overcome even the most unexpected obstacles. Her movements were calculated. She didn't just fire at targets randomly. She prioritized threats based on immediate danger to her squad. When an enemy soldier attempted to take cover behind a broken wall, Elena anticipated his movement, adjusted her aim, and neutralized him before he could pose a real threat. Each action was precise, a combination of experience, intuition, and calm under pressure. As she advanced, Elena coordinated her team's positions. She signaled one soldier to provide suppressing fire while another moved to flank the enemy. Each member acted in perfect harmony, guided by Elena's steady hand. Her leadership transformed a chaotic, dangerous situation into a structured and effective operation. The squad began to move with confidence, inspired by her example. They trusted her instincts and adapted to her commands quickly, knowing she had already visualized every possible scenario. Elena's attention to detail extended to the smallest elements of the battlefield. She noticed a pile of debris that could provide cover for her team, signaling them to move behind it. She identified enemy weaknesses, such as exposed positions and gaps in their formation, and directed her team to exploit them. Every decision she made was purposeful, aimed at maximizing her squad's effectiveness while minimizing risk. The enemy began to sense that something was wrong. Their confidence waned as Elena's team started controlling key positions and neutralizing threats efficiently. Soldiers who had expected an easy fight were now reacting defensively, scrambling to adjust to the unexpected coordination and precision coming from Elena's squad. It was clear that leadership could shift the balance of any battle, and Elena was proving that point decisively. Even amidst the chaos, Elena never lost sight of her ultimate goal, protecting her squad while achieving the mission. She remained aware of every movement, every shot, and every possibility. Her patched-up rifle may have started as a liability, but now it symbolized her resourcefulness, determination, and ability to adapt under pressure. She had turned a seemingly impossible situation into an opportunity to demonstrate skill, courage, and leadership. Her team responded with renewed vigor. Soldiers who had hesitated now moved decisively, covering each other, firing accurately, and following Elena's lead. Their coordination improved dramatically, a direct result of her guidance. Elena understood that a leader's influence is measured not just by personal action, but by the effectiveness they inspire in others. She had become the central force guiding the squad, and every soldier felt her presence as a stabilizing and motivating influence. As the battle continued, Elena identified a critical enemy position that threatened to break their line. Without hesitation, she led her team forward, taking calculated risks to neutralize the threat. Her strategy was clear, her actions precise, and her focus unshakable. She moved with a combination of speed, intelligence, and bravery, demonstrating to everyone that courage under pressure is as powerful as any weapon. By the end of this phase, the battlefield had shifted dramatically. What had started as a precarious situation, with her team facing a seemingly superior enemy, was now under control. Elena's leadership had transformed fear and uncertainty into confidence and effectiveness. Her patched-up rifle, once a symbol of disadvantage, had become a tool of precision and success. More importantly, her presence had unified the squad, giving each soldier the strength to perform beyond their limits. Captain Elena Rivera had not only taken the lead, she had redefined the battle itself. Through skill, courage, and quick thinking, she had turned a dangerous, uncertain situation into a controlled and victorious operation. Her team, inspired by her actions, now moved with purpose and confidence, ready to face whatever came next. Elena had proven that true leadership isn't about titles or rank. It's about action, vision, and the ability to rise above every challenge. The battlefield had settled into a tense rhythm. Captain Elena Rivera and her squad had managed to gain an advantage, but Elena knew better than anyone that battles were rarely decided in calm moments. The enemy was still out there, regrouping and seeking any opportunity to strike. Her eyes scanned the horizon, alert for any sign of danger, her mind calculating possibilities faster than a machine. She understood that the next move would be critical, not just for winning the fight, but for ensuring the survival of her team. As she crouched behind a broken wall, Elena noticed movement in a distant cluster of rubble. At first, it seemed minor, almost insignificant. A soldier shifting, perhaps checking on a fallen comrade. But her instincts screamed that it was something more. Slowly, deliberately, she focused her attention, observing the subtle patterns of the enemy. The soldier she had noticed was not alone. He was part of a small, highly trained unit advancing in a precise formation. Their target was clear, her squad's position and, more specifically, the central point where she had positioned herself. Her heart beat faster, not from fear, but from awareness. She understood the danger immediately. This was a high-value enemy unit, skilled, dangerous, and capable of causing serious casualties. The rest of her squad, busy focusing on nearer threats, hadn't noticed the subtle advance. Elena realized that if this enemy group reached her position, the battle could turn in an instant. Decisions had to be made, and they had to be perfect. Without hesitation, she whispered a few quick instructions to her team, pointing out the incoming threat and assigning specific roles. One soldier was to take the left flank, another to provide suppressive fire from behind cover, and a third to move in closer for observation. Her voice was calm, precise, and commanding. Even under the pressure of imminent danger, her clarity was absolute. Her squad had learned to trust her instincts, and now that trust would be put to the ultimate test. Elena adjusted her patched-up rifle, steadying her aim. The modifications she had made earlier, born out of necessity and improvisation, were about to be tested in a critical moment. Every shot would count, and failure was not an option. She focused on the high-value targets, anticipating their movements and predicting their next steps. The battlefield, once a chaotic blur, had become a calculated puzzle in her mind. A puzzle she was determined to solve. The enemy moved closer, their formation tight and disciplined. Elena took a deep breath, centering herself. She had been trained for moments like this, where split-second decisions could change everything. Her fingers tightened around the rifle, and she fired with precise timing. One enemy soldier dropped immediately, and the rest hesitated, thrown off by the sudden accuracy. Elena didn't pause. She adjusted her aim, firing again, targeting the leader of the unit. Her shot hit perfectly, and the enemy formation faltered. Her squad, inspired by her courage and precision, sprang into action. They moved with purpose, covering one another, following Elena's lead without hesitation. The enemy, now disoriented and under heavy fire, struggled to regroup. What had seemed like a direct threat to her position was now crumbling, thanks to Elena's quick thinking and leadership. Every shot she took, every order she gave, was precise and calculated, turning the tide in her favor. Elena noticed another critical detail: a hidden sniper positioned on a slight rise, attempting to take advantage of the chaos. She signaled a nearby squad member to provide cover while she moved strategically, keeping low and minimizing exposure. Her movements were fluid, almost instinctive, as she positioned herself to eliminate the new threat. The sniper had underestimated her skill and resourcefulness, and Elena capitalized on it immediately. With a careful aim and steady hands, she neutralized the sniper before he could take a single shot. Her squad witnessed her ability to handle multiple threats simultaneously, and their respect deepened. Elena had taken what could have been a turning point for the enemy and transformed it into an advantage for her team. The battlefield had shifted dramatically, not because of numbers or firepower alone, but because of her quick thinking, courage, and strategic foresight. The remaining enemy soldiers attempted to retreat, but Elena's squad pressed the advantage. Using the momentum she had created, she coordinated her team to advance while maintaining cover and suppressing fire. Each step was calculated, each move purposeful. Elena's leadership turned the chaos into order, and her team moved with confidence, their morale strengthened by the decisive action of their captain. In the midst of the action, Elena remained aware of every detail: the position of her team, the remaining threats, and even the terrain itself. She anticipated where the enemy might try to regroup, positioning her squad to counter any attempt. Her rifle, patched and improvised, fired with accuracy and reliability, a testament to her resourcefulness and determination. The weapon that had once been seen as broken had become a tool of precision under her hands. By the end of this engagement, the battlefield had shifted completely. The enemy's high-value unit was neutralized, their coordinated assault thwarted, and her squad had gained a strategic advantage. Elena's calm, precise, and courageous actions had not only saved lives but also inspired her team to fight with renewed determination. What had begun as a potentially disastrous situation became a turning point in their favor, all because one soldier had the presence of mind, skill, and courage to act decisively under pressure. Captain Elena Rivera stood amidst the aftermath, rifle in hand, eyes scanning for any remaining threats. She had faced a critical moment, and through intelligence, bravery, and quick thinking, she had turned it into victory. Her squad now looked to her not just as a leader, but as a symbol of courage and resilience. In that intense, chaotic moment, Elena had proven that the true turning point in any battle isn't just about weapons or numbers. It's about the mind, the heart, and the unwavering resolve to act when it matters most. The battle had finally slowed, though the air was still thick with smoke, dust, and the faint echo of distant gunfire. Captain Elena Rivera's squad had survived one of the most dangerous engagements of their mission, and it was all thanks to her leadership, quick thinking, and unwavering courage. As the adrenaline of combat began to fade, the team had a moment to catch their breath, check for injuries, and assess the battlefield. The tension that had gripped them earlier was slowly being replaced by a mixture of relief, pride, and disbelief. Her squad members were quiet at first, still processing everything that had happened. Some of them exchanged glances, nodding silently to one another, a subtle acknowledgement of how their captain had led them through the chaos. Those who had doubted her skills or underestimated her earlier could no longer deny what they had witnessed. Elena had faced an almost impossible situation and turned it around, not with luck, but with intelligence, strategy, and bravery. The respect she earned in those moments was not demanded, it was earned through action. Her commanding officer arrived shortly after, having observed the engagement from a distance. He walked carefully through the battlefield, noting the positions, the movement of her squad, and the aftermath of the fight. When he reached Elena, there was a brief pause, a silent recognition of the critical role she had played. Without hesitation, he saluted her, a gesture of respect that spoke volumes. In that instant, her courage, resourcefulness, and leadership were formally acknowledged, not just by her team but by the higher command. Elena returned the salute with quiet dignity. She wasn't seeking praise, but she understood the significance of the moment. Recognition in the military is more than awards or medals. It is an acknowledgement of skill, judgment, and the ability to act decisively when lives are at stake. The respect she now received from both her commanding officer and her squad was a validation of years of training, discipline, and perseverance. It was also a reminder that leadership is earned in the crucible of action, not in the comfort of routine. Her team began to gather around her, some speaking in hushed tones, others simply looking at her with admiration. One soldier, who had earlier questioned her abilities, approached cautiously and muttered a quiet thank you for guiding them through the battle. Another, a younger recruit who had been nervous throughout the engagement, smiled and said, "You saved us all back there." Elena nodded, acknowledging their words without arrogance. She understood that leadership is as much about inspiring confidence as it is about making decisions in the heat of the moment. The squad began to check their equipment and tend to minor injuries, and Elena made sure everyone was accounted for. Despite the fatigue and stress, she remained vigilant, aware that danger could still be near. Her attention to detail, even after the most intense moments of combat, demonstrated the level of responsibility she carried. Leadership, she knew, didn't end when the battle did. It continued until her team was safe and ready for the next challenge. Later, as the squad regrouped at a safer location, her commanding officer called her aside. He spoke directly and sincerely, acknowledging her quick thinking and tactical expertise. He highlighted how she had not only managed her own weapon, patched and improvised under pressure, but had also orchestrated the movements of her team with precision. He emphasized that her actions had turned what could have been a disastrous encounter into a decisive advantage. Elena listened quietly, feeling a sense of pride but remaining humble. The acknowledgement was meaningful, but she knew that the real measure of her success was the safety and cohesion of her squad. Word of her actions began to spread quickly within the unit. Soldiers who had not been directly involved in the engagement heard about her resourcefulness with the broken rifle, her calm under fire, and her ability to take control of a critical situation. There were murmurs of respect, nods of admiration, and even the beginnings of stories shared among the ranks about the captain who turned a broken weapon into a force multiplier. Recognition, she realized, had a ripple effect. It inspired others to believe in their own abilities and to trust in the leadership guiding them. Her squad settled in for the night, and while most of them were exhausted, there was an underlying energy, a renewed sense of unity and morale. Elena moved quietly among them, checking that everyone had what they needed, offering guidance, and quietly encouraging those who were still shaken. Her recognition was not only formal but deeply personal. It was clear that she had earned the trust, loyalty, and respect of every soldier around her. In that moment, Elena reflected on what had occurred. The battle had been chaotic and dangerous, yet it had revealed her strengths in a way that training exercises never could. It had proven that her courage, intelligence, and adaptability were not just theoretical. They were real, tangible qualities that could influence outcomes in life or death situations. Recognition wasn't about ego. It was about understanding that her actions had made a meaningful difference, saving lives and strengthening her team. As night fell and the sounds of distant conflict echoed faintly across the landscape, Elena sat quietly, rifle beside her, and thought about the journey that had brought her here. She knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new decisions, and new opportunities to lead. But for now, she allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection, knowing that her squad's trust and respect had been earned. In a battlefield defined by uncertainty and danger, she had become a symbol of courage, resilience, and the power of decisive leadership. Captain Elena Rivera had faced the storm, led with unwavering focus, and received the recognition she had earned, not for personal glory, but for the safety, cohesion, and success of her team. Her example would resonate far beyond that day, inspiring soldiers to trust their skills, to rise above doubt, and to act with courage in the moments that mattered most. The battle had ended, but the echoes of that day would stay with Captain Elena Rivera forever. As the dust settled and the wounded were cared for, the squad gathered to debrief and rest. Yet even in the quiet aftermath, there was a sense of accomplishment and pride. The team had survived, and their survival was largely because of Elena's courage, quick thinking, and determination. She had turned what could have been a disastrous situation into a story of resilience and triumph, a story that would inspire her squad and others for years to come. Elena's presence that day had left a deep mark on her team. Soldiers who had doubted her abilities now looked at her with admiration and respect. They had witnessed her face impossible odds, handle a broken rifle with ingenuity, and lead them with calm precision through chaos. It wasn't just her skill with a weapon or her tactical mind that impressed them. It was her courage, her composure under pressure, and her unwavering commitment to their safety. These were qualities that transcended rank or gender, They were the hallmarks of a true leader. As the squad members shared stories of the battle, Elena listened quietly, allowing them to reflect on what had happened. Some recounted moments when they had feared for their lives, only to see her act with precision and confidence. Others spoke of how her resourcefulness with the broken rifle had amazed them, turning a symbol of disadvantage into an instrument of victory. Each story reinforced the lesson that actions, not appearances or assumptions, define a person's true strength. Word of Elena's actions began to spread beyond her immediate squad. Reports reached higher command, and soon she was being recognized formally for her bravery and ingenuity. Awards and commendations were presented, but Elena remained humble. For her, recognition was secondary to the lives she had helped protect and the mission she had helped accomplish. She understood that leadership was not about accolades. It was about responsibility, trust, and the ability to inspire others to perform beyond their perceived limits. The legacy of that battle extended far beyond the day itself. Soldiers who had witnessed her leadership carried those lessons forward, applying them in training exercises and future missions. They learned that even when circumstances seemed impossible, determination, creativity, and courage could change outcomes. Elena's example became a benchmark, a standard of excellence that her team would strive to emulate. She had shown that a single person's actions, when guided by skill and integrity, could have a profound impact on everyone around them. Elena herself reflected on the experience with quiet introspection. She thought about the broken rifle, the moments of doubt, and the split-second decisions that had defined the engagement. She realized that her ability to improvise, to stay calm under pressure, and to lead effectively had not come from any single moment of training. It had come from years of preparation, discipline, and a mindset focused on resilience and responsibility. Every challenge she had faced in her career had prepared her for this defining moment, and she now understood the power of perseverance and self-belief. The battlefield had also changed her teammates in subtle ways. Soldiers who had been inexperienced or hesitant before had grown in confidence, inspired by her example. They learned the importance of trusting their training, adapting to unexpected situations, and supporting one another. Elena had not just led them through a battle. She had taught them lessons that would shape their approach to combat, teamwork, and leadership for the rest of their careers. Even after returning from the mission, Elena's story continued to resonate. New recruits heard tales of the captain who had faced impossible odds, turned a broken rifle into a tool of precision, and led her team to safety. Her story became a source of inspiration, illustrating that courage and intelligence can triumph over doubt and adversity. It was a reminder that true strength is measured not by weapons or numbers, but by determination, skill, and the ability to act decisively when it matters most. Elena also understood that her legacy was not just about battlefield heroics. It was about the values she had demonstrated: integrity, courage, resilience, and leadership. These values extended beyond the combat zone, influencing how her team worked together, how they trained, and how they approached challenges in their personal and professional lives. In many ways, the lessons from that day became a part of the culture of her unit, a standard for excellence and accountability that would endure long after the battle had ended. As the sun set over the rugged landscape, Elena stood quietly, reflecting on what had been achieved. The battlefield was silent now, but the impact of that day would echo for years. She had faced fear, uncertainty, and the limitations of imperfect tools, and she had turned all of it into success. She had earned the respect of her squad, her commanding officers, and eventually the broader military community. Most importantly, she had proven to herself that skill, courage, and determination could overcome any obstacle. Captain Elena Rivera's actions became a story of legacy, one that would inspire others to rise above doubt, face challenges head-on, and lead with courage and integrity. Her example showed that a single person's choices can have a profound effect, not only on immediate outcomes but on the people around them and the culture of an entire unit. Her legacy was not written in medals or commendations alone, but in the confidence, courage, and inspiration she left in those who witnessed her bravery. In the end, Elena's story was a testament to the enduring power of leadership, resilience, and ingenuity. She had faced the impossible, adapted with skill, and guided others to safety and success. Her legacy would endure, reminding everyone that courage is not the absence of fear, but the determination to act in spite of it. Through her actions, she proved that true strength is measured not just by victories, but by the lives you touch and the example you set for others.